Now to discuss all of this, the Dean of Brown University's School of Public Health, Dr. Ashish Jha. Dr. Jha, you wrote a piece that revelations from the Woodward interview should be an opportunity for the country to turn a corner in a positive way. But then we see the president celebrating this ruling in Pennsylvania and holding indoor rallies. So why are you so happy?
Well, thank you for having me on, Stephanie. I'm not sure I'd say I'm happy, but I am relieved to hear that the president actually understands the seriousness of this virus and has articulated it in his own words. And also
Dr. Jha, you're relieved to know that he knows the seriousness, but isn't it more concerning that he knows it and he's doing the opposite one would do to protect people against it? That makes me more pessimistic.
No, look, I'm completely sympathetic to that point. And obviously the last 6 months have been a bit of a disaster for our country. And the lack of federal leadership has been at the heart of that. What I'm hoping is we've had this fight on the seriousness of this virus, this misinformation pandemic. And what I'm hoping is now that we have the president's own words on the record, we can stop arguing about whether this is the flu or not. We can stop arguing whether young people are affected or not, and use his words to help educate his supporters and move the country forward.
So where do you see that happening? The president is celebrating a judge in Pennsylvania overturning rules meant to protect us.
No, look, I don't want to be excessively optimistic that somehow we're going to turn the corner, but I do believe that the president's words have power, and they certainly have power among his supporters. And I think we need to help people understand that his words that he said to Bob Woodward are the truth. And we've got to act based on those words and not what we're seeing in terms of policy coming out of the White House.
Sir, his supporters are calling the coronavirus pandemic a hoax, and they're packing his indoor rallies.
Yeah, look, Stephanie, I've been very sympathetic to a lot of people who have been so flooded with misinformation that they don't know what to believe. And I think we have to reach out to those folks. We have to share the truth, and we have to share the president's words. And I'm trying to find a hopeful sign here because we have a long way to go. We are nowhere near done with this pandemic. And I really do think that if we can use the president's words to help educate his supporters, there may be hope that we can get this pandemic back under control.
Well, then, given how important communications, accurate communications are, I have to ask you about this. Yesterday, Michael Caputo, the top communications official at the Department of Health and Human Services, said government scientists at the CDC have a, quote, resistance unit meant to undermine President Trump, saying these scientists do not want to see Americans get well unless Joe Biden wins. This is a top U.S. health official. Your reaction to that?
Yeah, it's incredibly distressing. And we have seen a suppression of science out of this administration that's been pretty consistent. And this is sort of nutty talk, the idea of a resistance unit within the CDC. These are some of the best scientists our nation has, and we've got to be supporting them. And the kinds of stuff that came out from Mr. Caputo was very distressing. I don't understand why he still has a job. I think Secretary Azar should move him on. But obviously that kind of talk and description is very, very harmful to the scientific community and to the effectiveness of the CDC.
Okay, nutty talk, not from your crazy Uncle Larry, from a top communications person at one of our most important agencies. I do want to ask you before we go, Bill Gates said that he believes the FDA and the CDC have lost credibility. Do you agree with that?
Well, look, the good news is that the great scientists of both agencies are still there, so they can get that credibility back quickly. But there is no question that the political meddling from the White House and the lack of leadership from the heads of CDC and FDA have really, I think, strained the credibility that Americans have in those agencies. We've got to build that back.
Well, there's an opportunity to today. We've got to help people get better, smarter, and healthier. Dr. Jha, thank you so much for joining us. Coming up next, we have to turn back to weather.